Hello everyone, look out, we're going to clash. We're going to be running some basic clash detection directly in Revit. Um, these tools only apply to Autodesk Building, Autodesk Building Suite Premium or Autodesk Building Suite uh, Ultimate. If you have a standalone Revit license, I don't know if you have these tools, like if you only have Revit architecture regardless if it's 13 or 2013 or 2014. These examples are shown in 2013. If you only have Revit mechanical or Revit building systems, Revit architectural systems, Revit structural systems, I don't know if these tools are available to you, especially if you have the standard version or the standalone version of any of these products. If all you have is Revit LT, chances are you do not have the interference check. So I'm just letting you guys know that up front. These are for the users of Revit Building System, which means you have architecture, you have architectural tools and structural tools and system tools. It's only for Revit Building System Premium, Revit Building System Ultimate. I know they're in these products. I don't know if they're in other ones. So your mileage may vary on whether or not you can use these tools. So I'm going to perform a basic clash detection. And right now, I'm looking in a theater. It's part of a very large complex that includes a large function area. It includes a hotel tower. It includes a parking garage. And from a structural and an architectural standpoint, each of those are broken out into their own models. From a mechanical, electrical, and plumbing standpoint, we've got one big giant model that spans everything. It's got its upsides. It means that we can do some entire system-wide flow rate checks and things like that, but it's a little difficult for other reasons. So that's neither here nor there. To the interference check, click on the Collaborate tab. In the Coordinate section, you will find Interference Check, Run Interference Check. And we're going to say what we're running a check on. So I want my ducts and pipes versus what I'm running my check against. Now our default is running an interference check on everything that actually exists in this model. But we also have the advantage of every reference model that exists that's linked in. So right now is the theater structure. So I'm looking at the theater structure and I'm going to clash against, I'm going to run a clash test against my structural columns and my structural framing. Now, in regards to structural framing, you have the various types of structural framing that are out there. For those of you who need to run ductwork in the web space of an open joist girder, there is a way where you can deselect the web. But I don't know if that's the web of just an open joist girder or if that's the web of any piece of structure, which includes engineered wood I-beams, or if it's structural W shapes, the thin vertical piece, that's the web. So your mileage may vary. I'm leaving it on because that's how I want to show it. Click OK, and I'm going to run the clash detection. And this is actually it's pretty good at what it does, but the Revit will clash against what's called a hard collision, which means that these objects are actually going to have to intersect each other, even if it's by a minute amount, just a fraction of an inch, which is in large cases easily correctable in the field. They have to actually touch or intersect. A more robust product like Navisworks, you can have what's called, I guess, a fuzz factor or a fluff factor that says if a duct comes within 3 inches of a structural column, let me know what's going on. Because between the fire, the spray-on fire insulation for steel structure and the wrapping insulation of ductwork, that's going to be about 3 inches. So you'd need to have that fuzz factor worked in there. So there you go. Now we're looking at the report, the interference report, and it's giving me category 1 versus category 2, and I can switch that around if I wanted to. Category 1 and category 2 refers to those the previous dialogue, basically. So here's my structural columns, and if I highlight this object, it's really hard to see, unfortunately. But if I look at this piece of ductwork, and I zoom in. I've run this before, so I know it's here. As you can see, as I'm going back and forth, these are the objects that are actually in conflict with one another. So I need to make a correction to my file. If I'm really lucky, I can tell my structural engineer, hey, move your column a couple of feet. And we all know that works really well. Guess that was supposed to be a joke. So here's that same clash in a different spot. Now you notice I closed up my clash detection. How do I get it back without running another new report on the same stuff? Back to interference check, show me the last report. Top item in the list. There's my duct. There's the structural column. Duct and structural column. And you notice I've got two different columns here. One is the architect's column and the other one is the structural column. Sometimes, various consultants and various companies, they'll just do that. Makes it a little more difficult on us who have to work with both of those files, like in this case a mechanical engineer. Gives us a little difficulty in working with that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to move my column. I'm just moving it an arbitrary amount. If you knew exactly what it was, then you'd be able to move it exactly. There we go. I'm clear. Now I look at my interference check, show the last report, I highlight the first thing, and they're still showing up. Well, I come down here and I click the refresh button. Now the first item on my list is, I don't know where it is exactly. I haven't checked that. But it's not these objects. So this is the only way that you have of sort of checking of how much you've got done. And it's going to be a long, tedious process to get it all, but you have the tools and you have the ability to check this without relying on a cryptic report from the architect that ran their clash detection and has emailed you an HTML file or emailed you a web file saying here's what all your clashes look like, fix them. This gives you the ability to see them, to do them yourself, to run all that kind of stuff. So there you go. That's the basics of running a clash detection directly in Revit. And there you go. See you next time.